Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Wajazallahu anna Muhammad ma huwa ahad. So this is the starting of the second week. Allah, and we will. So we will be continuing from where we left off last week with the hadith. We should be able to see them on the screen. So this one now is al-Muslimu akhul Muslim. That the Muslim is a brother to another brother, or a Muslim is a brother to another Muslim. So this is pretty self-explanatory. It just means that not only through blood, you could have your blood relative, your blood little brother or elder brother, but all Muslims, whether they're from Chechnya, Russia, Slovakia, Pakistan, India, West Africa, East Africa, South Africa, wherever they are, they all believe in kalima, ashhadu wa la, etc. And they are all Muslims, regardless of what language they speak, regardless of what skin tone they are, regardless of anything and everything. Once you are a Muslim and you consider yourself to be a Muslim, then everyone, then all the other Muslims around you are your brothers. And obviously similar for sisters also. A sister is a Muslim sister, a sister for another Muslim sister. That makes any sense. It's basically the opposite for the opposite gender. So accordingly, there are a couple Quranic ayat that actually I'd like to go over that are very similar to this little narration of the Prophet right here, subhanAllah. So the first one is in Surah Al-Hujurat, and it is the 13th ayah. So you should be able to see on screen here the translation now. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الناس إنا خلقناكم من ذكر وأنثى وجعلناكم شعوبا وقبائل لتعارفوا إن أكرمكم عند الله أتقاكم إن الله عليم خبير. So right here Allah says, O mankind, verily we have created you from males and females, and we have created you from nations and tribes, so that you may get to know one another. And what this means, know one another in a sense where you can recognize the good in other cultures and learn from it. And you can also learn some of the bad habits that the other cultures may have, and you abstain, and you can teach them to abstain from it, right? That's why we as Muslims we tanhawna 'anil munkar. We try to ward off evil, and we invite goodness, right? So an example is in our day and time, right? Let's say an example would be everybody calls their mom, like you have a mom and your dad, but you never call them by their first name, right? So an example, like if your mom's name is Zainab, I could be like, hey Zainab, what's for dinner today? It's rude, right? It's disrespectful. But there are some cultures where that is, not to say it's okay, but they're more accepting of it. Like here in Canada, amongst like Caucasian culture, sometimes people do that. They'll call their mom by their first name, or they'll call their dad by their father's first name, and it's just something disrespectful, right? So in a similar manner in the Indian Pakistani culture, nobody really does that, right? So a Pakistani Muslim will look towards like a Caucasian Muslim, and you would say, oh, that's not something that you should be doing, and you teach one another, like, oh, that's something that's rude. You shouldn't be doing it. This is a better way, and you learn from each other's cultures. And then in another ayat, Allah says, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ خَلْقُ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَاخْتِلَافُ ألسنتكم وألوانكم إن في ذلك لآيات للآيات للعالمين. And from his signs is the creation of the samawat, like the heavens, the skies, and the earth, and the differences of your alsinatikum is your tongues, alwanikum, and your tonations, your skin tones. إن في ذلك لآيات للعالمين. And it verily, in that are signs for those who ponder, or those who have a keen intellect, those people of knowledge. So Allah is also saying here that, remember, Allah is comparing it now with with the heavens and the earth are beside it, and He says the differences between the languages that you as humans speak and the different in the saturations of your skin tone. He's saying that is also a sign of Allah, like a sign that, like, oh, Allah is real, right? So when we hear different people speak languages, English, Arabic, Hindi, Punjabi, Russian, Pashto, Urdu, all of the different languages out there, these are all different signs. And you can also connect it back to the other ayat, where you know that Allah created each nation, and then each nation has their language. So you're able to learn, and you're able to, like, oh wow, I know that this language, like for example, the people from Afghanistan speak Pashto, or maybe some of them speak Farsi. When you hear that language, you think, oh, I remember my Afghani brother, Bilal, who I met the other day. Or if somebody's speaking, Urdu, like, oh, I remember Brother Zaid, who is from Pakistan. And he's a good brother of mine. And you're able to connect with these different things that Allah has given to all of us, right? So these are all things that enable us to find and build a connection between all the different Muslim brothers that you have, right? The differences that you have. People nowadays may look at the differences and say, oh, like they have a superiority complex, where they think because of how they were born or the language that they would speak, that they are greater than you. That is not Islam. In Islam, everything is equal, right? And actually, Allah does say that in the exact same ayah right here. He says, Inna akramakum, verily the most honorable amongst you, and Allahi, according to Allah, atqakum, are those of you who are most God-fearing. So the differences in your languages and your skin tones and the different tribes, the different nations, the different ethnicities, the different cultures, whatever the difference is that you have that makes you, contrary to someone else, it doesn't make you greater or less than those people. Rather, the only thing that will make you greater than someone else is if you are more God-fearing and more aware of Allah, and you've saved from sins. So continuing now, the next hadith is kullu bid'atin dalalah. Every innovation inside this religion of Islam is going astray, or it's like a misguidance, it's a deviance. And this is something that the scholars of Islam, they talk about immensely, like what it means for something to be a deviation of dalala, or if something is or if something isn't. In a small nutshell, you could basically just say things that were not originally a part of Islam that someone tried to add. That is a bid'ah, right? So, an easy understanding of that is, let's say someone tries to say, oh, there's actually not 5 namaz, there's actually 10. And he says there's one after, there's a like, yeah, Fajr, Dhuhr, but let's say between Fajr and Dhuhr, he tries to make up a new salah, and he calls it like Shajara, and you're supposed to pray Shajara between them two. And he says, oh, Shajara is also a fard of the namaz. You say no, that's not true. That's a bid'ah, because you're trying to implement or innovate something that is.
Can you repeat what you said, like that story you just said?
Sure. So an example of an innovation or a dalala would be, let's say someone named Amir, and he comes and he goes on the for Jummah khutbah, he goes on the minbar and he says, oh, did you guys know that that there's not actually only 5 namaz, there's actually 10. So we know of Fajr, Dhuhr, Asr, Maghrib, and Isha, But then let's say someone would say, oh, there's actually another part of the namaz between Fajr and Dhuhr, and he says it's called Shajara. And he's like, Muslims, you have forgotten to pray Shajara. Why don't Muslims go pray Shajara? And everybody's like, what is this guy talking about? Right? So him trying to implement or add something that is not already in Islam is a bid'ah. And the rest of this hadith actually, it's kullu bid'atin dalala wa kullu dalala finnar. And every innovation is in the hellfire, or however the Prophet himself has said it. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So it's basically, so in a slight nutshell, it's basically just anybody who tries to bring something into the fold of Islam that is not originally there. When people do such things, yeah. So sorry about that. So when people do such things, they are innovators, and them and their innovators, if they don't abstain from trying to promote it, will be in the hellfire, according to what the hadith says. So next one is at-tuhuru shatrul iman. So someone has a question. Yes, yeah.
I was just wondering, where were you reading the ayats from? Because all I saw was like from earlier, you're reading ayats from, like, were you reading it from the Quran or something? I'm just asking.
Yeah. Can you see my screen now or no?
I could see your screen. It's showing the hadiths only. That's all it's showing.
Oh, it's only showing that. Oh, okay, let me see. I don't know.
Because like maybe if you would have to switch screens, then it might. I don't know. I forgot how this works.
One moment. So somebody asked just that they wanted to see the ayat, so we're just showing it on the screen now here. Sorry, I must have made a technical error earlier. So this one is Surah Al-Rum. It is the 22nd ayah. وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ. And then the other Quranic ayat is in Surah Al-Hujurat. It is the 13th ayah. يَا أَيُّهَا النَّاسُ إِنَّا خَلَقْنَاكُمْ. As you can see here, these are them. Going back now to the narration that we were reading over. At-tuhuru shatrul iman. The purity or pakness is a part of iman. And this goes towards everything. Like really everything and anything in life that you would ever really think of. So, right, you have purity in your clothes, purity in your speech, purity things you look at, purity the things you listen to, purity the things you say, purity things you wear, right? Purity in your actions, everything. Taking showers, putting oil in your hair, washing your face with soap, all of these things. Taking care of yourself and looking pristine is a part of iman. So the more you love to take care of yourself, inshallah, right? You could say that it also helps to build your iman. As there is another narration of the Prophet peace upon him, where he says, "Inna Allah Jamil." Verily, Allah is beautiful. Wa yuhibbul jamal, and He loves beauty. Right. So it's not necessary for a Muslim to wear, like, oh, I want to be humble today, so I'm going to wear, a very messy or dirty pair of shoes or a dirty jubba. That's just old. It's like the jubba is like 20 years old. It's crinkly, stains on it, and it just doesn't look too nice. Someone says, "Oh, I'm trying to be humble, that's why I wear it." It's not. If somebody wants to be humble, then sure. But according to the hadith here, it'd be better if you just kind of threw it out when you got a new jubba, got a new pair of shoes, and you try to always be perfect. Right. and everything. Also, when you shower, you put lotion on. Make sure your skin is moisturized. Put deodorant on, put shampoo, everything that you do throughout your life. Always try to be clean and pure with it. Another narration now is لا تتخذوا القبور مساجد. Do not take graves as places of prostration. Meaning, and some people do this nowadays, and I could possibly connect this to the other narration I went over right here, bid'ah and dalala. So many Muslims nowadays, they go to, like you have the people who Allah really loved, like the awliya, or the big scholars. Some people go to them and say, let's say his name was like Abdullah ibn Mubarak, as an example. Somebody would go to his grave, and they'd be like, yeah, Abdullah, you're in your grave now, and you're talking to Allah. So ask Allah to grant us this and this. You can't really do those type of things, right? You can only ask Allah for things. And similar to this hadith, no, لا تتخذوا القبور مساجد. Some people also prostrate to these graves. Some people prostrate. Also, to try to make dua. Some people try to worship, maybe not in the intention of worshiping, like how they worship Allah. Because in the Chinese culture, people go like this. Or if you guys ever watch like a kung fu movie, or if you go to like a kung fu arena, right before they start, they put their hands to their sides and they bow. It's part of their culture. So, but they don't intend to prostrate in the sense of worshiping. So some people may have the intention where they're not worshiping in the prostration, or they're just trying to show it a sign of respect. That too, no matter what your intention is not a good thing. You're not supposed to bow, prostrate, or you're not supposed to go in sajda or ruku to anything other than Allah. Nothing at all. And many times, when we go to our graves and we visit like our family members and such things, we want to honor them. The best way for you to honor them is that you make dua for them, or you give sadaqah in their name, or you can read some Qur'an and make intention that you're trying to give good deeds to them and such things. It's better if you did that instead of trying to prostrate. So the next narration now is al-mar'u ma'a man ahabba. A person will be summoned, or will be with the one whom he loves, right? So this is just a snippet of a longer hadith. A Sahaba went up to the Prophet, peace be upon him, and he said that, he said, I love you, and I love those who love you, right? And he said, but I want to be with you in Jannah, but I know that because I'm not as pious as you, I'm not able to fulfill the same good deeds. I'm not able to do as much as you or the people similar to you are. He said, what can I do in order to get into Jannah? The same Jannah as you, although I'm not you, right? The Prophet said, so Prophet peace upon him replied, Al-Mar'u. The Prophet peace upon him replied, he said, Al-Mar'u ma'aman ahabba. As in responding to his companion, he said that basically saying, if you love me and you love those who love me, that you will be with us. So this is actually a very inspiring narration. For many times, when we ask Allah for Jannah, right? Do you guys just ask for the lowest level of Jannah? Because there's levels to Jannah. I believe 7 different levels. Right? So you make, for example, like this would be like one level, this would be a second level, this would be a third, and it continues. So when we make dua that we say, oh Allah, grant us Jannah, you just ask for this level right here, or do you want to come all the way up? Obviously, we ask for the highest level, but many times we may be deficient in our good deeds, or maybe we're sitting a lot, right? So many times we feel inadequate, and we are unable to reach those extremely high levels. So how do you go about avoiding our inadequacies, yet still being like, you're basically going around our deficiencies and still being able to reach those high levels. You build the love. You love the Prophet, so you follow him, and you love his companions, so you follow them. Right? So that will, inshallah, enable us to be with him in Jannatul Firdaus. The next hadith that we're going over is al-khamru juma'ul ithm. Alcohol constitutes many sins. You know in English how we say money is the root of all evil? Have you guys ever heard that saying before? Yahya, Khalid?
No.
You never heard that? No, money is the root of
Yeah, I
all
have.
It's a saying that people say in English. Because when people have a lot of money, they get greedy, and then they'll rob people for money, and they do a bunch of really nasty stuff just to get some money. So this, I guess you could say, is kind of similar, where alcohol is the root of many evils. Meaning, people drink alcohol and go do a lot of bad things. People go drink alcohol and they go drive their car and then crash, and then end up killing people. There was a story. I think it was here in Toronto. It might have been maybe in America though. Of a wealthy man. There's a wealthy man. He got drunk and decided to drive his Porsche, like an expensive car, and he hit a caravan, and part of the consequences of that car crash was that a grandfather and 3 kids all passed away, all because of what? Alcohol. If he wasn't drunk, you could say that he would have been able to drive properly and avoid this collision. But alcohol causes this thing, right? Many times alcohol will cause other things. I'm putting a lot of emphasis on this too, because alcohol is something that nowadays you're gonna start seeing it a lot, a lot, a lot. Majority of times, in order for people to buy alcohol, they have to go to the beer store or the LCBO or such stores like this. But nowadays, it's everywhere. You go to the gas station, you can find alcohol. If you go to Circle K, the convenience store, you'll find alcohol. You go to No Frills, Sobeys, grocery stores, ordinary stores, you end up finding alcohol. And it's extremely, extremely, extremely evil thing, causes just horrendous acts. Right. And there's also there's one brother who was a convert. Like, he wasn't born Muslim, he became Muslim after. And he was telling me a story. He was saying that one time he was drinking, like before he became Muslim, right? And he blacked out. And by blacked out basically means like he went unconscious. So like he wasn't fully aware of what he was doing. But he was saying that his body itself was still moving. Like, how does that even, what? He's like a ghost, basically. His body itself was moving, but he wasn't conscious of his own actions. Imagine that. He's basically Majnoon. Like, he's crazy, a madman in that sense. You're blacked out, yet your body's still moving. And then who knows what you're really doing? Someone could be driving, they black out. What are they doing? Right? Someone could go hurt someone. You'll be walking, somebody will be walking, like an old lady here will be walking. The person will be blacked out. They're not really knowing what they're doing. Next thing you know, they go punch the old lady, all because it's drunk. So alcohol constitutes, pardon me, many sins. It's the cause of it. But if you drink alcohol, a lot of bad things will happen. We have to always, obviously, we're a Muslim, so I doubt any of us actually drinks alcohol. But we always have to make sure that Allah protects us from any and all alcoholic beverages. So this is a nice little hadith. I like it. Personally, I'm kind of a fan, if I can call it, of this one. Someone says, sorry, the narration says, Al-Mu'minu ghirrun karimun. So the translation here on the screen says a believer, mu'min, is simple and noble. So noble is kareem. The ghirrun means simple. It can also mean, um, I'm forgetting the English word. You could say like
Gullible.
gullible. Yeah, that's a perfect word. What was it? Khalid? Jazakumullah.
Yeah.
Yeah, gullible. Gullible. There was a story. I was in maktab, like madrasa. One of my teachers is telling us a story. There's a scholar in the past, and they didn't have clocks back then, so they used like the shade of. So like for example, if the shade was like only covering here, they'd be like, oh, it's 1 o'clock. And the shade was covering here, they'd be like, oh, it's 4. So they used like the shade of a certain area to determine what time it was. And so students wanted to play a little game, right? And so they basically blocked the shade, so it would cover like they put like a like door or however they did it in order for the shade to be lower, but it's not actually the correct time. So the shade made it look like it's 4 o'clock here, for example, like the shade would cover all of this, but then in reality it's still like 1 o'clock. So then the students they say, hey, stop, it's 4 o'clock, class is over. Like class is done. Can we go home now? Done with. So so then so then he looked, he's like, oh, acha, eek. And he sent everyone home. And so my teacher was saying that I think if I remember the story correctly, the students tried to do this a couple of different times, and the teacher just like, oh, TK, like he just accepted it, although it's possible that he knew that it could not have been the actual time, right? He just said, oh, okay, no problem, gullible. But so it's gullible with a positive meaning, not foolish, right? So gullible meaning like, like if someone comes to tell you, oh, they say something crazy. They say, yo, man, like yesterday I was playing soccer with, Yahya and Khalid were playing soccer, and Yahya scored on Khalid, and he got like 30 different goals, and it was like 30-0. Like, oh wow, cool. Like, congratulations, Yahya. You kind of laugh with it. And he's all gullible because that's pretty difficult to do, right? To get 30 goals in a soccer game. You're gullible, like, oh yeah, okay. But so that's kind of like in a good sense. If someone tells you something, you kind of go with the flow, you're like, oh cool. But then you're not foolish, where you're easily deceived in the sense of something that's actually harmful, right? So if someone came to you and they said, yo, yeah, did you know that the Prophet, peace upon him, is alive again and he came out of his grave? You're not going to be like, oh yeah, wow, let's go meet him. No, now you're no longer being gullible. Now you're just being foolish, because you know that can never happen, right? Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is permanently like passed away, and he's never going to come out of his grave, and it's not going to happen, right? So you're not foolish, and you're not easily deceived. A mu'min is not foolish, neither is a mu'min easily deceived. You can be gullible in things that aren't really harmful, right? It's like getting 30 points in a soccer game, or like you can think of different examples. And simple is also a good translation. The next narration here is al-fajiru khabbun la'im. That a fajr, like a transgressor, is khabbun, and la'imun is deceitful and ignoble, meaning like he's dishonorable, like he's disrespectful, right? So in a similar manner, like these are the qualities, karimun is a quality of a believer, of a Muslim, and someone that's always lying, someone that's always being rude to people, you see that that's not the good, that's not a quality of a mu'min. It's the quality of a fajr. Someone who just, yeah, don't want to be around them, right? So these are qualities that when you see them in people, so there's two lessons we can take from these, okay, guys? Now I want to listen carefully. So the first lesson is that we have to make sure that we ourselves don't portray these qualities, right? So you make sure that, we're simple and yet we're honorable. And we are not deceitful, nor are we dishonorable. Right? So we always try to make sure that we remember that, at-tuhuru shatrul iman, that we try to purify these evil qualities if we do have them inside of us. So that's kind of one little lesson. And the second is that when we see people around us and they have certain qualities, we can detect who that person is or how that person is, right? So when you see someone and they're simple, they're noble, elegant, they're pure and beautiful, they're always a mu'min, I want to be friends with that person. But when you see someone that's deceitful, he's lying, he's disrespectful, he's rude, obnoxious, you say, oh, he's a fajr. He shows, you may not say he's a fajr, but you could say he shows the qualities of a fajr, of a disrespectful person, and I don't want to be friends with that person. All right. And there's an a little example that I like to tell myself. You guys, if you have a water bottle, right? Like a black one, like you can't see the inside, right?
No.
What? No, no. I mean, let's say you have one. Let's say you have like a black water bottle.
Oh, like you mean like a non-see-through water bottle? I get it.
Like it's see-through, yeah. And someone pours, like they start pouring it, and water comes out. What does that mean? That there was water on the inside of the bottle, right? So in a similar fashion, if someone pours out juice, that means juice is inside the bottle. Someone pours out milk, it means milk is inside the bottle. So
What if somebody pours alcohol on you?
what do you mean?
Like what you were saying, like that water example. With a
Oh,
bottle.
no, I'm not saying if someone pours it on you. I'm saying if someone just, let's say they pour it on the ground. But to answer your question, if someone does pour alcohol on you for some reason, just wash your clothes, wash it 3 times and try to wring it out, try to get the scent of alcohol out.
Yeah, I know how to do that. I learned about Insha'Allah and this stuff.
Mhm. Yeah, and don't be around anybody that has alcohol. They're trying to pour it on you. They're most likely
That'd be funny though. That's be kind of funny though.
yeah. Where was I? Yes, so basically it's like this. Whatever content or contents are inside of a bottle is what will be poured out. So in a similar fashion, your heart, like you as a human, you Khalid, Yahya, Tabinda, Hassan, Ashhaz, whatever is inside your heart will also be poured out. Right? And that's for everybody. Me, all of your friends, whether Muslim or non-Muslim, everybody on the world. Right? Right. Right. So whatever contents, whatever liquid is inside the heart will be poured out. And you'll be able to tell what the person has inside of them by the content of the liquid that's poured out. So if someone is khabun and is a la'imun, that you'll be able to see, oh, that is what is inside their heart. For the most part. Obviously only Allah knows, but these are just examples, right? Examples of what is apparent, I mean. Right, so if somebody's pouring out evil contents and they have evil qualities, and you're pouring out evil qualities, you can say, "Oh, such and such, a person is such and such." Likewise, on the flip side, if someone has extremely good qualities, you could say, "Oh, that person is a good person." Why? Because the contents of his heart is being poured out, and it's a good substance. It's a good thing. Because oh, that person is a good person. You're able to detect by what is by the apparent. What is inside somebody's heart. Pardon me. So the next narration now is al-ghibatu shaddu min az-zina. So zina is basically just not being married and like having friends of the opposite gender. So like me having like a girlfriend. and you go hug her, like stuff like that, and you're not married, basically. I don't want to get too much into that. But anyway, so it's saying that basically backbiting is worse than being not married. Not in the sense of you being like single and you just living life, but it means doing things that a married couple would do while you are not married. That's basically what it means. I hope everybody understands, inshallah. So saying that backbiting is worse than that. And your reason why is because backbiting destroys friendships, right? And it's also something that's only, you can say, only very evil people do, right? Because when people backbite, there's animosity, there's jealousy, there's envy, there's anger. For the most part, there's a lot of bad things. Right? Let's say me and Khalid, we're at the playing soccer, and he trips me, and I hurt myself. So now I'll call up Yahya. I'll be like, yo man, Yahya, bro, I'm playing with Khalid, and this Khalid is like such a skinny guy or something. I'll be like, and he's short too, bro. I hate this guy. Like all he does is do this and that. What's wrong with this guy, man? He's such a loser. And you just start talking. And you're basically disrespecting the person. And you do on and on and
You know
on.
what I would say to that?
What?
Get out, you're being nonsense.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So exactly as Yahya said, if you do end up if you're around people and they start listening, and they start talking, speaking ghaiba, like ghaiba, they start backbiting, you leave. Like, oh, give me a second. I'm just gonna go use the washroom. Or I'm just gonna wash my hands, or I'm gonna, you try to step away from them. Because
Or you
listening
could
to
or you can make an excuse like I gotta go see my aunt or something like that. You can just do something. Like,
yeah, exactly. And Yahya said you can also just like you have to go see your aunt. You make him an excuse to leave. Because listening is also a part of listening, not the same as talking, obviously, because you're not speaking it. But when you're listening to it, you're kind of supporting it indirectly. Because if let's say me and Yahya are talking, right? And I'm there trying to backbite. And Yahya says, Musa, I gotta go, man. My mom just called me. I have to go home. Now I'm by myself. When I talk to myself, I can't backbite by myself, right? So Yahya saved himself from listening, and he also basically directly saved me from backbiting also. Right? So it's an evil thing, and in order to make sure we don't do it.
there is
So-
another way you can also do that. Is you can tell you can just tell the person that they're doing something wrong too. That's another way.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's very true. And I would actually like to speak of two other things upon that too. Speaking negative of someone doesn't always mean it's backbiting, right? So an example, if someone was a liar, or someone was a bully, or someone was a thief, and they did this a lot. And so I go to Yahya. I say, hey, Yahya, be careful when you're around Hassan, because I noticed that he likes to steal a lot. Steals a lot. I had $10 in my pocket, and Hassan stole it today. And then yesterday I had $5, and he stole that too. And the day before that, he stole $15. And you're seeing a pattern. So you warning someone of someone else's actions is not backbiting. Why? Because you're protecting them from like a bad thing. It's a warning, right? So you're allowed to expose people when they're doing something bad, and it's not backbiting. You're protecting others. Backbiting is basically just when you're, I don't, there's a word I can use. I don't.
Do you want me to explain it? I can help.
One moment. Backbiting is basically when you're talking crap. I think that's an okay way of putting it. I mean, when you're talking crap about people for no good reason. So Yahya, if you want to have a little explanation, then go ahead.
Yeah, it's like saying, it was like if you like people would say like you see that person like he's so fat, something like that. Like that's backbiting, but they're not actually fat. They just say that.
Yeah, in a
That's,
way. Mhm. Like you're just trying to be rude, right? You're just trying to be rude.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. And also sometimes it's also not even the way you talk too. I was in class and my teacher was also speaking of ghibat, backbiting, and he said how there was a time when the Prophet peace be upon him was with Aisha, and they're speaking of somebody, right? And then let me show you. So then the Prophet was talking to Aisha. So he's like, oh, they're speaking, I believe, about another person. So let's say Zainab. So like, oh, like Zainab, and Aisha's like, oh, Zainab, like this Zainab, this one, meaning like she's short. Like, oh, this one you're talking about, this one. And the Prophet said that the action you did, that if you just dipped it, or if you had that action and it was like a liquid, like a liquid, and you put it into the ocean, it would uh contaminate the entire ocean. Because how evil it was. Sometimes it's also the way you describe people. You can unintentionally. So, for example, me, I'm like 5'3" or something. I'm generally a pretty short person. So let's say I don't like being called short because something that just hurts me, right? And Yahya knows that I don't like being called short. Then Yahya would go to Khalid and be like, "Oh, I was in class with Musa today," and Khalid says, "Wait, are you talking about Musa Oakley or Musa Patel?" And then Yahya would say, "No, man, Musa Oakley, man, the short guy." Musa, he's like, "No, this Musa." That you could also say is even backbiting too, because I
If
don't like.
it's, but if it's not intentional, then like, how would he, like, because you're not trying to say it intentionally. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so some that's the thing too. You don't really know what's in people's hearts. So it's better when you're describing someone. It's better to just describe them with things that are that's you basically describe them by not with their bodies. Try not to describe people with their bodies. So right. So if you say if you're talking to Khalid and say, oh, which Musa are you talking about? Say, oh, Musa Oakley. And let's he still doesn't. He's like, which Musa Oakley are you talking about? Oh, the one we're in class with. He's like, oh, now I know. So try not to describe people with their bodies. Right. Or if somebody has like or if they have a jubba, like, oh, the one that always wears a white jubba, or the one that always wears a turban, that Musa. Like, oh, okay, I know what you're talking about. Or you say, oh, the Musa Patel, the one, or say Musa Oakley, the one that became Muslim. Like, oh, okay, I know what you're talking about now. Right? So you try to describe them in a way that's not using their bodies. It can be difficult sometimes, most definitely. But always try best not to. But sometimes if it's like necessary, let's say you have two people. Both of their names are Musa Patel. Both the exact same. And they both are teachers. What do you do? Right? Like, oh no, the one that has the one that's a little taller than the other one. You could say something like that. Right? Like, oh, the one that's a bit taller than the other one. The one that's a bit funnier than the other one. Like, it's okay to use examples like that. But when you're kind of just mean with it, then it can be rude. Like, that's the first example you jump to. But like I said, Yahya, be talking to like, oh yeah, the short Musa. Like, why are you saying it like that? Right? Like, oh no, you say, try your best to avoid it. If it's necessary, then be a little respectful with it. Like, oh, the Musa that's it's not too tall, just saying short. Like, oh, one that's not tall. Right? It's a little easier. You understand, Yahya? Yahya, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
You get what I'm saying, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Mm. So I'll go over this one last one. I'll be inshallah about 5 minutes left. Al-Qur'anu hujjatun lak or laka aw alayk. the Quran will either be evidence for you or against you. And this is more so, I believe, on Judgment Day. Right? So if you take care of the Quran, you read the Quran a lot, and you always try to memorize it, try to, instead of being very kacha, your hips, try to be very pakka, firm, and try to know it. And on the day of judgment, the Quran will come and it'll be evidence for you. But oh Allah, you know, while Musa was alive, he took care of me, and he always read me, and he always tried to, memorize me, and he always tried to do right by me. So the Quran would help. If you take care of the Quran will take care of you. But if you abstain from the Quran now, and on the judgment day, the Quran will abstain from you. It's like that. So we never read the Quran. You never open up the Quran from once. It's kind of just on the shelf collecting dust. And only like dust bunnies open up the Quran and read it. Then the Quran will be like, hey, you never opened me on the judgment day. So you never opened me on the dunya. So I'm gonna be open for you and I'm going to help you on the afterlife or in the afterlife. It's like that. But we have to try to make sure that the Quran is our best friend. Right? Like when we're memorizing 30th para, let's say you're like Washamsu wal duhaha, and you're like, hey man, I'm kind of forgetting what the next ayah is. I'm forgetting. You open it up and you try to memorize it. Always try to memorize the things you're forgetting and you take care of it. Right? Just like that. So just to wrap up that one quick. If you take care of the Quran now, in your livelihood, like in the dunya on earth, it will take care of you in the afterlife. And if you don't take care of it now, it will not take care of you in the afterlife. 2 minutes left. If anybody has any last final questions, I'm all ears. If not, then that will be it for this class, inshallah. Anybody have any questions? No? Okay then, inshallah. I'll see you guys next week, inshallah.
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 Assalamualaikum.
Assalamualaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. Take care, guys. Assalamu alaikum. Jazakumullah.